She takes this one to keep from screaming, she said, flipping open the orange bottle. And this one? To make sure she remembers to scream in the right direction. My name is Norma Fielding. I'm 71 years old, and last Friday I became a joke on the internet. It was my niece Heather who showed me the video. We were waiting in the pickup line at CVS, and she held out her phone with a nervous look. "Auntie, I think you need to see this before anyone else does." The bathroom in the clip was unmistakably mine, those pink ceramic tiles from 1968. The seashell soap dish I'd glued back together last spring. And there on the counter, laid out like props, were all 6 of my daily medications: blood pressure, cholesterol, mood stabilizers, memory support, arthritis, and the new one I hadn't told anyone about yet. Boomer Buffet, the title said, in bright pink letters, and there she was, my daughter-in-law Candace, wearing my reading glasses, mimicking my voice like I was some doddering fool. My chest burned. I hadn't felt that kind of heat since the day I buried my husband. Comments flew by on the screen. "Damn, she got the whole Walgreens starter pack. Plot twist, she's the final boss of WebMD." I gripped the strap of my purse tight, as if I could hold myself together through sheer force. That purse still smelled faintly of cinnamon gum and fabric softener, things that made me feel like myself. "Is this recent?" I asked Heather, though I already knew the answer. Her face tightened. "Posted last night. It's got over 30,000 views. Some people are saying they know it's you." That was when the message came in. Candace. A voice memo, not even a call. "Hi, Norma. I didn't think it would get seen like that. Please don't call the pharmacy. I'll explain. Just don't do anything yet." I listened twice. Not because I didn't understand, but because her voice was wrong. Not scared of me, scared of something else. I stood up and walked to my bedroom. The amber bottles were lined up neatly on my nightstand, next to the note I kept folded in my Bible. The note only 3 people knew existed. Candace wasn't one of them. I picked up the phone, but I wasn't calling the pharmacy. Not yet. I was calling someone else. "Hi, it's Norma," I said when he picked up. "I think she knows." He paused, then said, "Are you sure it's her?" Harold's voice was still gravel and cigarette smoke, even after 2 years retired. "You think Candace is behind it?" "I don't know," I said. "But I opened my pillbox just now. One of the blue capsules is green. That ever happened by accident?" Silence. "No," he said slowly. "Those aren't over-the-counter vitamins, Norma. If someone swapped anything in your kit, it's deliberate." I sat down on the edge of the bed, my knees weak. The nightstand drawer creaked as I opened it and pulled out the old pill organizer I hadn't used in years. It still had dust in the Wednesday slot from the week after Jim died. Back then, I couldn't even remember to eat lunch, let alone take a pill. I'd started using the pharmacy blister packs instead, sealed by date, no thinking needed. So why was the one Candace handed me last Tuesday filled with loose capsules? She said there was a packaging delay, handed me a little zip bag. I didn't question it, I murmured. Harold whistled low. "You need to check your refill record." "If she's picking up meds in your name..." I didn't let him finish. I hung up and called the clinic. "Hi, this is Norma Fielding. I need to check the pickup record for my lamotrigine refill." The receptionist clicked away on her keyboard. "It says it was picked up last Thursday, ma'am." I froze. "No, I didn't pick it up." Another pause. "Well, someone did. It was signed under your name." A cold breath rushed through me. I pressed the speaker button and stared at the green capsule again. It had a faint chemical smell, not the usual chalky odor. Something sour, some metallic. My thumb brushed the edge of Jim's wedding band, still on the table where I left it every night. He used to say, "If anything ever happens to you, Norma, I'll feel it in my bones." I wished bones could speak. I ended the call and reached for the receipt drawer. I keep everything, prescriptions, receipts, even old appointment cards. But the last refill slip was missing. There was only one person who'd been in that drawer recently, Candace. And yesterday, when I'd asked her about the missing Thai leftovers, she'd laughed and said I was forgetting again. I looked back at the pill organizer. 7 days. 7 slots. What exactly had I been taking? The name wouldn't come. I stood at the front door, staring at my neighbor of 20 years, and couldn't summon it. Not her first name, not her husband's, not even the name of the dog I'd walked when she broke her leg in '08. "Hey, sweetie," I said too brightly. She smiled politely, but I saw the flicker, that flicker of worry people try to hide behind their eyes. I shut the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. I'd always prided myself on details. I'm the one who remembered which niece hated cilantro, who sent out birthday cards 2 weeks early every year, who labeled her garden seeds in freezer bags by color and bloom season. But this week, everything had fogged, and not just once. On Wednesday, I'd found the kettle boiling dry, no tea bag in the cup. Friday, I'd gone to church an hour early thinking it was Sunday. And now, names gone. I opened my calendar app, the one I used like gospel. Every appointment, every errand. Last Monday it read, "Dinner with Carson's, canceled." Except I didn't cancel. I'd been looking forward to Marianne's pineapple ham for weeks. I called her. "Hey, Norma," she answered cautiously. "Feeling better?" That stopped me. "Better? You sounded tired last week. Said you weren't feeling up to dinner. Didn't remember I even invited you." I sat down slowly, the receiver hot against my cheek. "Marianne, did we talk on the phone?" "Of course we did. Wednesday evening. You were polite but strange. You said, 'I'll check with Candace.' Then you hung up." I don't remember any of it. My hand reached instinctively for the little leather-bound notebook I'd kept since Jim passed. I called it my now book. Meals, weather, little notes on the day. But this week? Blank. 4 days missing. That night, I pulled out a fresh notebook. Drew 3 columns: pills, food, feelings. I wrote, Saturday, pills, took all at 8 p.m. Food, toast, tea. Feelings, scared. Then the door opened. Candace stepped in like she owned the walls. She was holding a worn leather book, one I hadn't seen in 5 years. Jim's old medical journal, from the clinic, his notes on patient reactions, his handwriting on every page. "Where did you get that?" I asked, voice cracking. She looked startled, then slowly said, "You gave it to me." "I did not." She smiled. A smile full of caution and calculation. "Well, maybe you just don't remember." I opened my mouth to answer, but a shadow crossed the hallway behind her. "Candace," I said, "put the journal down." But she didn't. She flipped a page and tapped her finger gently. "Did you know Jim was documenting memory experiments? Like cognitive resets after sleep cycles? He was tracking pill interactions with behavior." "That book is private," I snapped. "You had no right." She smiled again, a little too calm. "You must have forgotten giving it to me. You were tired that day." Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. I shuffled past her and opened it to find a man in his 50s, dressed in a county-issued fleece vest, clipboard in hand. "Mrs. Norma Fielding?" he asked. "Yes?" "I'm Mr. Valdez from Adult Services. We received a wellness concern related to your medication and memory function. Mind if I come in for a few minutes?" My breath caught. Behind me, I heard Candace's voice soften. "Oh, wonderful. I was hoping someone would follow up. She's been so foggy lately. We're all very worried." He stepped inside before I could object. I led him to the living room, my legs trembling. He asked polite questions. How I take my pills. Who manages my refills, whether I've missed meals. I answered as best I could, trying to keep my voice steady. Then he asked to see where I store my medications. I walked to the bedroom, heart pounding. The green capsule was gone. Gone. I opened every drawer. The pill organizer sat neatly on the nightstand. But the capsule, my only evidence, had vanished. "Candace," I called, "have you seen that odd green pill?" She stepped in with a steaming mug. "Tea, Mom? You're a little worked up." Mr. Valdez nodded approvingly. Support from family helps a lot during evaluations. "Family," I muttered, taking the tea. My hands trembled so badly I nearly spilled it. He left 15 minutes later, telling me gently that someone had raised concern over erratic memory and refusal of assistance. I stood frozen in the doorway as he walked to his county car. Candace walked up behind me, her voice sugar-sweet. "Next time he comes back, you should probably remember who called him." I turned to look at her, but she was already putting on her coat. "Oh," she added, "and Dr. Rios said he'd call you Monday." Something about reviewing your medication management might be a good time to mention if you're feeling forgetful. My ears rang. I hadn't spoken to Dr. Rios in over 2 months, but someone had. The tea went cold on my nightstand. I hadn't touched it, just watched it, suspicious, like it might blink. Sleep never came. I lay there stiff as stone, listening for creaks. Every thought was sticky. Had I taken my morning pills? Had I refilled last Tuesday, or just thought about it? At 3:12 a.m., a wind slammed the window shut and jolted me upright. That's when I remembered the kitchen bin. I'd been saving blister cards and pill slips in a brown grocery bag under the sink. Old habit from Jim's clinic days. Track everything, assume nothing. I patted down the hallway in socks, the floor cold and unforgiving. When I opened the cabinet, the bag was still there, but something else had been slipped inside. A fresh blister card, unopened but sliced down the center with a paring knife. The name printed on the prescription label wasn't mine. Teresa Fielding, my sister-in-law, dead 10 years. The pill code was unfamiliar, 4412 GYY, not mine, not anything I'd been prescribed. I sat on the floor and took photos with shaking hands, flipping the card to capture every angle. The expiration date was recent, filled just 2 weeks ago. Why would Candace have meds under Teresa's name? I reached for my phone to check the last pharmacy call, but it wasn't on the charger. It wasn't on the dresser either. I scoured the bedroom, heart racing. Under the bed, inside my shoes, in the linen drawer. Nothing. Then I opened the freezer to grab an ice pack for my knees, and found it. My phone. Wrapped in a Ziploc bag, buried behind the peas. My fingers went numb. She didn't just hide it, she froze it. Candace was gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway, but she'd been here just hours ago. I sank into a chair and pulled the blister card close. Teresa Fielding. That name. Jim once used her records in a training manual for controlled meds, but the address listed wasn't hers. It was mine. Someone was filling drugs under a dead woman's name and having them delivered to this house. I used Jim's freezer phone. He'd bought it for emergencies after the blackout in 2012, stuck it in a bag with batteries and a $20 bill. We joked about it back then, how it'd outlive both of us. It powered on after a few tries. The buttons felt like sandpaper under my thumb. "Harold," I whispered when he answered. "I found a blister card, filled under Teresa's name, but it's current, 2 weeks ago." Silence. Then, "Norma, listen to me. That's felony territory. If those drugs trace back to your address and her name's on them, someone's setting you up." "Set me up for what?" I asked, but I already knew. Incompetence, fraud, guardianship, erasure. He told me to bring the card to him, said he had someone at the pharmacy who could check the registry quietly. I hung up and turned to the kitchen drawer, looking for the paring knife, the one Candace always used for fruit. I wanted to check if the blade still had pill residue. When I pulled open the drawer, something blinked. A small black dot nestled between the egg timer and the broken peeler. I leaned in. It wasn't a dot. It was a camera. No bigger than a thimble, with a faint red blink I hadn't noticed before. I stepped back fast, heart in my throat. A camera. In my kitchen. Where I take my pills. Where I talk on the phone. Where I live. I grabbed my coat, the pill card, and my emergency folder. The one with my power of attorney, Jim's death certificate, and the house deed. I was halfway to the door when I noticed the mailbox flag was down. Strange. I hadn't checked it today. I stepped outside, slippers crunching on the dewy concrete. The mailbox was open, empty. Yesterday's mail, gone. No junk flyers, no insurance ad, no reminder from my dentist, nothing. I turned to look at the street. Candace's car was back, parked 2 houses down, engine still warm. I didn't knock. I pushed the door open and walked straight into the kitchen, the emergency folder tucked tight under my arm. Candace was at the sink rinsing a mug, humming like she'd just won a prize on TV. "You took the mail," I said. She turned, eyebrows up, voice syrupy. "Mail? Norma, what are you—" I tossed the pill card on the table. It landed with a slap. "And my phone, from the charger to the freezer? You think I wouldn't notice?" She didn't answer. Her fingers tapped the edge of the mug, slow, thoughtful. "Norma," she said after a beat, "you've been confused lately. I think we both know that. You get things mixed up." "Don't," I snapped. I stepped closer. "That card has Teresa's name. She's been dead since 2015. The address is mine. That's not a mix-up, that's a felony." For a second, something flickered across her face. Not guilt, not shame, fear. Then it was gone. Her mouth twisted into a half-smile. "Maybe you filled it yourself and forgot." I leaned in, voice low. "You're not clever enough to fake a name, a registry, and hide a camera without help. Who else is involved?" That got her. Her fingers froze on the mug. The ceramic slipped, landing gently in the sink with a dull clink. I pressed on. "Who gave you the journal? Who taught you how to hide my calls? You're not doing this alone." Candace swallowed. Her voice went tight. "I didn't want to." Then we both heard it. A noise, not loud. A faint metallic click from the hallway, the kind a latch makes. We turned at the same time. It came from the back closet, the one where I kept Jim's coats and old medical boxes. I walked there slowly, heart pounding. My knees ached, but I didn't stop. The door creaked open. Inside, the keepsake box was off the shelf, its lid ajar. I knelt. Inside was Jim's cufflink case, his handwritten speech from our 40th anniversary, the little ribbon from our first dance. But one thing was missing. The flash drive, Jim's old silver USB. He'd once told me, "If anything happens and someone comes asking questions, this is what they're after." It was gone, and someone else had been in that closet. My hands were still shaking when I closed the closet. The flash drive was gone. But I remembered something. Jim never trusted one copy. "Redundancy is survival," he'd say, like we were in a spy novel. I climbed the stairs to the guest room, where no one ever went. On the 3rd shelf, tucked behind the Reader's Digest collection, was an old encyclopedia volume, G.H. I pulled it down. It felt too light. I opened the cover and smiled through the fear. Inside, tucked in a cutout rectangle, was a second drive, silver, labeled in Jim's writing, F2, N only. I carried it to the kitchen like it was an organ transplant. Plugged it into the freezer phone, waited. 4 folders popped up, all labeled in his shorthand. The last one stopped my breath. Candace, anomaly. I opened it. Inside were notes, logs, JPEG scans of pharmacy receipts. One line caught my eye. 4.2319, Candace G. collected RX under Lisa G. Photo ID unclear. Claimed to be picking up for mother. No HIPAA form. Flagged. I clicked another. 5.1720, second incident. Same patient name, camera footage unclear, added to file. He'd been tracking her for years. The final note made my spine freeze. If she's still in the picture, Norma has 48 hours. 48 hours for what? The file was dated over 3 years ago. Had Jim known something? Was this whole situation already in motion back then? Had Candace been waiting for me to forget? I copied everything to the freezer phone. The screen flickered once. Then again. A red battery icon flashed in the corner. 3%. I scrambled for the charger. Nothing on the desk, nothing in the kitchen drawer. I dumped out my purse. Nothing. And the worst part? That phone model only takes one kind of cord, the one Jim kept in his old desk drawer, which Candace had cleared out last month. The screen dimmed. 2%. I could hear the ticking of the old kitchen clock like a heartbeat. Jim always said, "Don't trust a single charger. Hide one where no one would check." He used to pack one in his thermos when he worked double shifts. I ran to the garage. The thermos was still there. In the camping bin, wrapped in the flannel towel we'd taken to Flagstaff every October. I shook it once. Click. Inside, coiled like a treasure, was the charger. The screen flickered back to life just as the battery icon turned red. I plugged it in. The freezer phone blinked, gasped, and then glowed steady. I copied the drive files to my laptop, then printed everything, every receipt scan, every note, every image. In one photo, barely visible in the corner, was a digital watermark. E. Novak, J.D. My chest tightened. Evelyn Novak. She'd handled Jim's clinic paperwork, even our estate brief in 2008. I hadn't spoken to her in years. I called the number on the old magnet still stuck to the fridge. She picked up herself. "Evelyn Novak." "Evelyn, it's Norma Fielding." I didn't finish. She cut in, her tone going sharp. "Norma? What did you just say?" "I found a drive, Jim's. It has Candace's name on it, and prescriptions, fake ones, with a dead woman's name." There was a long silence. Then, "Don't say anything else on the phone." "Evelyn, meet me at my office, noon tomorrow. Bring everything, the originals, and don't talk to anyone else until then." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Okay," I whispered. "Good. And Norma?" "Yes?" "If this is what I think it is, you're in danger." The line went dead. I turned, startled by a sound at the front door. Candace stood there, keys in hand. She held up the mailbox key and smiled. "You dropped this in the driveway," she said sweetly. "But don't worry, I already checked. You didn't get anything important." I didn't sleep. At 8:15 sharp, I dressed in soft slacks and a jacket with deep pockets, the kind you wear to funerals or bank appointments. My tote was already packed. Jim's flash drive, my freezer phone, printed files, and a spare charger, all wrapped in a dish towel. I had one foot out the door when Candace called from the kitchen. "Heading somewhere?" I turned, heartbeat steady. "Brunch," I said. "Church group." She stepped closer, dressed too nicely for a Tuesday, makeup done, nails fresh, in her hand a manila envelope. "I booked you an appointment," she said. "Dr. Stanton, 1 o'clock, just a formality for your benefit paperwork." My spine straightened. Dr. Stanton wasn't a general practitioner. He was a cognitive assessor, used by elder care placement centers. "I didn't agree to that," I said. She smiled like I was a dog refusing to get in the crate. "It's just to make sure you're not overwhelmed with all your changes." I nodded slowly. "Well, I'll be back before noon. They can't evaluate me without consent." She didn't argue, just folded her arms and watched me go. I got in the car and gripped the steering wheel. The old photo magnet stared back at me, Jim in his work coat, cradling baby Emily in a pink hat. Candace had given me that photo the week after she moved in. I hadn't looked at it in months. And suddenly, I remembered. Candace had once sat on this very porch with a glass of wine and whispered, "Jim loved Emily more than anyone. Sometimes I think he knew she wasn't Peter's." I'd laughed at the time, brushed it off, told myself she was joking, that it didn't matter. But now it mattered more than anything. Because if Jim had suspected Candace was lying about paternity, what else had he suspected? And what had he done about it? I pulled onto 17th Street, past the bank, past the empty clinic, and I started to wonder, was this just about drugs? Or was it something much bigger? Something that started the moment Candace walked into my son's life. Evelyn Novak hadn't aged a day. Still tall and sharp-shouldered, her silver hair pinned back like a judge. Her office smelled of cedar and old books. She waved me in, closed the door herself. "I see you brought the storm," she said, nodding at the tote. I laid out the contents, carefully, like a surgeon. The flash drive, the printouts, my freezer phone, now half-charged. She scanned the documents with quiet intensity. "How long has this been going on?" 3 weeks, I said, but I think longer. She held up the Teresa Fielding blister card. "This is not just elder fraud. This could get the pharmacy audited." "I know." "Has she tried to get you to sign anything recently?" I shook my head. "She talks about paperwork. About my benefits, but nothing concrete." Evelyn tapped her pen. "Your name's still primary on all assets. Jim never finalized the trust update." I blinked. "Update?" She opened the flash drive and clicked into a folder labeled Trust Alteration, Draft. Inside was a document, Jim's notes. He'd drafted language to remove Candace as a secondary beneficiary. "Subject has accessed restricted substances via third-party identities," it read. "Recommend removal from successor roles, pending legal review." Dated 2 months before his stroke. I stared at the screen. He never told me. "He was waiting," Evelyn said, hoping she'd back off. She turned to me. "Do you want to finish what he started?" I opened my mouth. Then a knock. Evelyn's assistant poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt. There's someone in the lobby asking about Norma." Evelyn frowned. "Who?" "She says she's her power of attorney." My heart slammed. "I didn't give Candace POA," I whispered. Evelyn rose like a lioness. "Then let's see what document she plans to waive." She turned to me. "Norma, do you have your driver's license?" I pulled it from my wallet with shaking fingers. "Good," Evelyn said, marching toward the door. "Because this isn't just fraud anymore. It's theft of personhood." Candace walked in like she was arriving at a brunch reservation. Beige blazer, oversized purse, heels too loud for a legal office. "This is a misunderstanding," she said, smiling tightly. "I'm just here to clarify a few things for Norma's benefit. I'm her medical power of attorney." She opened a manila folder and pulled out a document, held it in 2 fingers like it was laminated gold. Evelyn didn't flinch, just extended her hand. Candace passed it over, sat, crossed her legs. I stayed frozen in the corner. Evelyn scanned the paper, eyes sharp as a hawk's. "Signed March 14th, she murmured. "Is that the date of the confusion spell you mentioned?" Candace smiled. She forgot the alarm code, locked herself out, took 2 hours to remember her own address. I felt my face burn. "That's not true." Evelyn kept reading. "Witness signature," she said. "Angela M. Daly." Candace nodded. Evelyn looked up. "Angela Daly died in 2018. I handled her probate." The room went still. Candace blinked. "Well, sir, maybe it was someone else with the same—" "No," Evelyn cut in. "There's only one Angela M. Daly in this county, and this document was filed with her name. That makes it a forgery." She set the paper down like it was radioactive. "I'll be holding this for fraud review." Candace's smile twitched. "She's confused," she said, motioning toward me. "Everyone knows it. She called her granddaughter Emily last week. Her name's Emma." I stood. "She doesn't have a granddaughter," I said. Candace paled. Evelyn folded her hands. "Let me be clear. James Fielding filed a red flag with this office in 2020. Any successor challenge made after his death must be cleared through a fraud screen. Norma is protected under that clause, and this document fails it." Candace rose slowly. Her purse hit the chair with a thud. "I see," she said. She turned to leave, but at the door she paused, looked back. "You think this is about you?" she said, voice low. "But it's not." She smiled, and that smile wasn't scared. It was patient. Evelyn gave me a burner phone. "It's not just about trust anymore," she said, handing it over. "It's about record. Every call, every word, log it." She promised to start filing the revocation papers that afternoon. By the time I got home, the shadows were long and low across the lawn. Candace's car was gone. I let myself in and locked the door behind me. The house was too quiet. Not calm, coiled. I walked into Candace's room, not like a thief, like a mother who needed to know. The dresser was neat, too neat, a hospital corner of fake order. But inside the closet, under a pile of beach towels, I found an old boot box. Inside, VHS tapes, About 10 of them, most unlabeled, cracked at the edges. But one was clean, rewound, marked in thick black ink. 3.7.2020. My hands shook. That was the day after Jim worked his last clinic shift. The day he came home quiet, said he was done with it. I brought it to the den where the old TV VCR combo still sat under the blanket. I slid the tape in. The footage was grainy, black and white. An office. Our old study. Candace walked into frame. She moved to Jim's desk, opened the drawer, pulled out a bottle. She unscrewed the cap, held something up, swapped it, closed the bottle. Then she looked directly into the camera and smiled. A long, deliberate smile. Then she shut the drawer. My breath caught. I leaned in, heart racing. And just like that, the screen went black. I sat staring at the blank screen. Candace's smile still burned behind my eyes. She knew she was being recorded. That meant Jim wanted her to see it. Or maybe she'd found the camera and was daring him. I ejected the tape. Then I noticed something beneath the VHS player. A little curl of yellow. I reached under. A stack of Post-it notes folded into a square tape residue still clinging to the edge. Jim's handwriting. Tight, slanted, medical. 3.1.20. CG entered study uninvited. 3.4.20. Med bottle misplaced. Reviewed footage. 3.6.20. Suspect internal access to registry. 3.7.20. Backup footage stored off-site. 3.9.20. M. Hess contact pending. That name again. M. Hess. It rang faint bells, but the kind that chime from far off. I pulled out my old address book, the kind with tabs and faded ink. There she was, Monica Hess, former nurse. Jim had hired her in 03, fired her in 09 after a quiet review. I remembered now, rumors of record inconsistencies, nothing ever confirmed. I dialed the number, 3 rings. Hello? A woman's voice, crisp, hesitant. Ms. Hess, my name is Norma Fielding. I'm Jim Fielding's widow. I found some notes about you, about Candace. Silence. Then, Jim said this might happen. I swallowed. Happen? If Candace is still close, she said, don't talk here. Meet me where it started. Where? The clinic lot. Midnight. Click. The line went dead. I looked at the clock. 11:12 p.m. I stood slowly, picked up my tote, my keys. Candace hadn't come home yet. Good. I stepped outside into the October air and drove into the dark. The clinic parking lot looked like a ruin. Weeds cracked through pavement, windows boarded. The sign, Fielding Family Medical, faded to a ghost. I parked near the side entrance, the same spot where Jim used to wait when I brought him lunch. At 12:06, she appeared. Monica Hess. Older now. Pale coat, dark eyes. Nervous. Norma, she said, nodding. You look strong. I'm tired, I replied. But I remember. She glanced over her shoulder. Good. That's the only thing that matters. We sat on the concrete planter edge, out of the camera lines. She explained everything. Jim had suspected Candace of forging refills and slipping into the registry with an old intern's login. The evidence was thin. Inventory loss, altered logs, odd signatures. He wanted confirmation, Monica said, so he asked me to log access under shadow tags, watch patterns. And, I asked, patterns led to one alias, Lisa Galloway. My breath hitched, the name Candace used to fill Teresa's prescriptions. Jim didn't tell me everything, she continued, but he warned me, said if something happened to him, to expect a call from you. She reached into her coat and handed me a sealed envelope, heavy, thick with papers. I held it in both hands. Break-in at my apartment last year, she added. That's why I went quiet. Then she stiffened. Her gaze shifted past me, toward the far end of the lot. There, she whispered. See him? I turned. A figure stood beneath the old light pole, hooded, still, not moving, watching. My skin went cold. Monica's voice dropped. "That's not her." "What?" "She said she'd come alone. That's not Candace." I stepped forward, squinting, but the figure turned, slipped between the shadows behind the fence, gone. I turned back to Monica. She was already backing away. "I shouldn't stay," she said. "What you've got, don't sit on it. Move fast." She turned and vanished into the alley. I looked down at the envelope in my hands. It had Jim's name on the corner, and the old clinic tag he used to wear, cracked down the middle, but still legible. Like it had been broken on purpose. I didn't turn on the lights when I got home. The sun hadn't come up yet. The house felt suspended, quiet, but tight like a wire. I sat at the kitchen table and opened the envelope from Monica. Inside, a thick stack of papers, printouts, handwritten notes, a red prescription log marked void across the top. Jim's handwriting filled the margins. One name jumped out. Alma G. Alma Grant. She'd been a patient, mid-60s, passed unexpectedly in 2019. Stroke, they'd said, but Jim never looked right after her funeral. The log showed a refill for meds Jim never authorized. Wrong dosage, different brand. He'd marked it with a note. Pharmacy called. She picked up wrong label. Said Candace handled it. I felt my stomach turn. Another sticky note, faded and curling at the corner, read, "Check CG initials, possible pattern." CG, Candace Galloway. He'd started seeing it. I cross-referenced the voided entry with the fax logs. The signature didn't match Jim's. He'd known, maybe too late. I reached for my phone, called Evelyn. Left a message. "Evelyn, I think this is bigger than fraud. There's a death in here, a wrong med. Call me as soon as—" The front door opened. Keys clattered. Candace. I shoved the log into the tote, closed the envelope, but forgot the laptop was still open. Candace stepped into the kitchen, paused. Her eyes landed on the screen. Alma Grant's name, highlighted in yellow. For a second, nothing. Then, she exhaled, sat down across from me, and said, "Alma wasn't my fault." I didn't breathe. She looked straight at me. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I couldn't stop it once it started. I opened my mouth, but no sound came. She didn't blink, not once during the whole story. "She asked me to pick it up," Candace said. "Said she'd had a dizzy spell. Alma, she trusted me. And you gave her the wrong meds." Candace shook her head sharp. "They were already bagged. I signed, that's all. I didn't look." "You knew," I said, voice low. "Jim logged the discrepancy. You forged the refill." "I didn't touch the forms." Her eyes welled but didn't spill. By the time I realized she was gone. Gone because of you. She reached into her purse and pulled out something small, a cracked porcelain teacup, faded blue rim, handle chipped. I recognized it. Alma's. She used to bring it with her when she visited. Said coffee tasted better in real china. "She left it in my car," Candace said. "The last time. I couldn't throw it out." She set it on the table between us. The crack split the rim like a scar. "Why?" I asked. Candace didn't answer. Instead, she looked at her phone. Her face went white. "I have to go," she said. Abrupt. Final. She stood, grabbed her keys. "Where are you?" "Don't follow me." Then she was gone. Out the door, down the steps, into the car. I stood at the window as her taillights disappeared. Then I picked up my tote and followed. I kept 2 car lengths behind her. Candace drove like she'd done it before, quick turns, no signals, eyes constantly checking the rear view. But I knew the routes better. Back alleys, streetlight patterns. At 12:48, she pulled into a gated lot behind a low, beige building. I coasted past, parked under a dying tree, and killed my lights. Cypress Clinical Trials, the sign read. Faint chipped paint. I hadn't heard Jim say that name in years. He once mentioned it, a private firm. Said they recruited aggressively. He'd never joined. Candace got out, walked fast, confident. A man emerged from the side door, lab coat, tall, mid-50s. They spoke in low tones, too far for me to hear. He handed her an envelope. She gave him a folded paper, thin, like a form. Then she turned and left. The man turned to go, but something slipped from his pocket, a flutter of white near the curb. I waited, counted to 60. Then I crept out and snatched it, a parking stub. March 9th, 2020. 2 days after Alma's death, the name on the stamp chilled me. C. Galloway. She'd been here before. I called Evelyn, whispered, "She's trading documents with someone in a lab coat. I have a parking stub." "Norma, listen. Don't confront her yet. Don't tip this early. I'm getting a restraining order filed in the morning." I nodded. "Okay." I slid back into my car, heart racing. But when I looked in the mirror, Candace's car was behind me, engine running, headlights off. "Out," she said. The knife wasn't large, but her hand didn't shake. I stepped out slowly. "Get in the passenger seat." I did. She drove fast, silent. We climbed out of town into the hills past Mill Creek. At the overlook, she stopped. The lake below was ink dark, rippling in moonlight. Candace stared straight ahead, still holding the blade, resting it on her knee. "I never meant for this to get this far," she said. "Then why the knife?" I whispered. "To keep you still." She looked over. "I watched him unravel. Your husband. He was going to fix things that couldn't be fixed. He thought the truth mattered." "It does." She laughed, dry. "Not when you're up against labs with more lawyers than patients." She reached into the glove box, pulled out something soft. My old scarf, silk, blue with white pinwheels. Gone since July. She held it carefully, like it might bite. "He was going to send this," she muttered. "Said it had traces. Said the stains proved contamination." She pressed it to my lap. It smelled sharp, bitter. Not blood, not perfume, chemical. "Who else is involved?" I asked. She didn't answer. I turned. "Did you swap Alma's meds yourself?" Nothing. "Was Monica on the list?" Still silence. Then, flashing lights behind us. A sheriff's car, idling. Candace froze. "I didn't call them," I said quickly. Her breath hitched. She looked at the knife, then at the scarf, then back at me, and said, "If I talk, I lose everything." The patrol door opened. Boots hit gravel, and Candace's hand tightened on the wheel. The sheriff kept his distance. "Evening, ladies." His voice was calm, curious. "Everything all right here?" Candace didn't speak. Her hand hovered over the wheel. Then she let go, dropped the knife onto the seat. I exhaled. "She's my niece," I said carefully. "We had a heated talk." The sheriff nodded. "Mind if I see ID?" I handed him my license. He walked back to his cruiser. Candace sat rigid, like a thread pulled too tight. He returned after a minute, holding a folder. "Ma'am, something unusual came up when I ran your name." He flipped it open. Inside, a typed statement. "I, Norma Fielding, being of sound mind, do hereby transfer medical and legal authority to Candace Galloway." My heart thudded. "That's not mine," I said. "That's not my signature." He studied my face, then the paper. "You're sure?" "Positive. That's a forgery." He nodded slowly. "We thought so. The witness signature doesn't check out either." He stepped back, radioed something in low tones. When he returned, his face had shifted. "Candace Galloway," he said, voice firmer. "Step out of the vehicle." She didn't move. "Now," he said. She opened the door, put one foot on the gravel. He reached for cuffs. Then his radio crackled. "Unit 34, cancel that. Legal documentation just arrived. Authority reinstated." The sheriff frowned. "Copy. From who? Law firm. Initials E.N. My breath caught. Evelyn? The sheriff looked at me, then at Candace. Looks like someone's lawyering up fast. Candace smiled faintly. I told you, she murmured, eyes on me. You're not the only one who kept receipts. The second I got inside, I dialed Evelyn. She answered on the first ring. Why did your office send anything to the sheriff? I snapped. Her voice went still. We didn't. I froze. They read out your initials. I haven't filed a thing yet, Norma, not without your sign-off. They said a document reinstated Candace's authority. Forward it. I scanned the fax the deputy had shown me, sent it over. 1 minute later, my phone rang. Evelyn's voice was low, clipped. That's not our letterhead. What? It's a knockoff. Looks close. But the spacing's off. The footer's outdated. That's a counterfeit. My skin crawled. She must have had access to an old filing, Evelyn said. Maybe from Jim's estate packet. She doctored it. I felt the weight of every mistake. Can we fight it? I'll file an emergency injunction at 8 a.m. Until then, lie low. Don't open the door. Don't sign anything. I promised. Hung up. Then I saw it. Tucked between the screen door and frame, a torn scrap of lined notebook paper, handwritten, slanted left. He knew. He just couldn't prove it. Don't look in the attic. I read it twice, then a third time. At the bottom, scribbled smaller. If you do, wear gloves. The attic door groaned like it hadn't moved in years. I pulled it down, climbed the steps slow, gloves on, flashlight ready, heat wrapped around me like wool. Old insulation, dust, the weight of memory, boxes, bins. Half a crib under a tarp, my wedding dress in a yellowed garment bag. Nothing screamed secret, until I spotted a cardboard shoebox wrapped in duct tape, wedged behind the old crib frame. Label, FJ212. I peeled it open. Inside, unused prescription pads, blank clinic forms, 2 flash drives, and photographs. The first made my chest seize. Jim, Candace, and the man from Cypress Clinical Trials, smiling, standing in front of a banner, Integrity Through Innovation. The second photo, worse, a logbook, open to Alma's file, circled in red, a dosage level 4 times what she was prescribed. Jim's handwriting in the margin. This was not my order. He knew. And maybe he'd once been close to it. I took the drives, loaded them into the freezer phone. The first one asked for a password. The second opened. A video clip. Jim's face, grainy, eyes tired, tie loose. If you're seeing this, something's gone wrong, he said. Static buzzed. He looked off screen. I was part of it, but not like they think. I tried to back out. I tried. The video cut off. Screen black. Battery. 2%. I stared at the blank screen, then at the box, and realized I had enough to bury her, or to bury myself. The freezer phone charged slow. I sat in the kitchen with Evelyn, the laptop open between us. She watched the video twice, didn't speak until the end. That man in the photo, Dr. Glenn Farrell, she finally said. He was sued in 2016. Overprescription linked to 2 deaths. Settled quietly. Jim knew him. Evelyn nodded. He didn't just know him. He was in the photos. That means there's a trail. I looked down at the logbook photo, the circled dosage, Alma's name. Evelyn's voice lowered. You want to bring this public? I do. Then we move first, tonight. I'll prepare the report for the board, but someone with reach needs to hear this. I hesitated, then got up, walked to the hallway. The old rotary phone sat on its table, dusty, but still connected. I dialed a number I hadn't used in a decade. Maya Leung, a voice answered, crisp, alert. It's Norma Fielding. Silence. Then, Norma, it's been a long time. Jim left me a recording. Another pause. When and where? Midnight. Overlook. Click. She didn't need convincing. I returned to the kitchen. Evelyn was already scanning the envelope files. "Midnight," I said. "She's in." But then I saw it. The red light on the rotary, blinking. One unheard message. I pressed play. Candace's voice, barely a whisper. "Don't meet her, please. Just listen to me first." Then a breath, and silence. I got there early. The overlook was silent. Trees shivered in the wind. The lake below caught no light. Evelyn's report sat in my tote, sealed tight. I brought something else, too. Jim's old tape recorder. He used it for house calls, tiny cassettes. I'd found it in the attic box. Forgotten, but loaded. On a whim, I pressed play. His voice crackled through the static. "Candace, I need clarity on the Teresa Fielding file." Her voice, lighter then. "I already logged it, Uncle Jim." "You logged a refill under a different ID." A pause. "I helped someone," she said, "just once. They were in a tight spot." "Jim, that's not how this works." Her. "She couldn't afford the visit." Jim, "You don't get to choose what lines you cross, not here." Silence. Then tape hiss. I clicked it off. My hands were shaking. The past had teeth. Headlights flashed behind me. I stood, heart climbing my throat. But it wasn't Maya. Candace stepped out of the shadows. She was calm. No purse, no knife. "I'm not here to stop you," she said. "What then?" She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a flash drive. "I'm here to add something." She held it out. "I never lied about Alma," she said, "but I didn't tell you everything either." The wind lifted her hair. "What's on it?" I asked. She met my eyes. "Insurance." Then another set of headlights curved up the hill. Maya had arrived, but I hadn't decided who to give the story to. Maya climbed out with a wool coat and a recorder already running. She scanned us both. Professional. Calm. "Let's talk," she said. I handed her Jim's drive. Not Candace's. Not yet. She listened to the video, read Evelyn's report. Her brow furrowed deeper with each file. "This is explosive," she murmured. "He tried to warn someone." I finally opened Candace's flash drive. Inside, a single scanned letter, handwritten, Jim's style, slanted left. To the State Medical Ethics Board, January 14th, 2020. He detailed everything. Alma's file, the falsified logs, a pattern in refill signatures he couldn't confirm. But one line froze me. "My wife must never be part of this. Keep her name out. She deserves peace." I blinked. He'd shielded me, even from the truth. The final page was a resignation letter, dated twice. Declined. Declined. "Why didn't you show this?" I asked Candace. She looked down. "I thought if I kept it, maybe he'd come back. Or maybe I'd fix it." I handed Maya the second drive. "Why now?" I asked. Candace's voice was smaller. "Because they came back." "Who?" But just then, Maya's recorder blinked. The screen went dark. "Battery just died," she muttered. "Didn't bring the backup." We all sat in the hush. And I realized someone else had been ready for this moment, maybe more ready than us. We stayed up all night. Evelyn brought her laptop. Maya brought caffeine and questions. Candace didn't speak much, but she stayed. We digitized every photo, cross-referenced Jim's logs with medical board reports, timeline reconstructed. At 4:12 a.m., Maya turned to me. "I'm giving it 24 hours. We publish tomorrow night. Front page, ethics desk." I nodded. "That's enough time to make our own calls." Candace sat on the edge of the couch, paler than before. "I don't want my name in it," she said. "You'll be mentioned," Maya replied, "but I can keep the details soft." Candace didn't argue. She just nodded. I fell asleep near dawn. When I woke, it was quiet. Too quiet. Candace's door was open. Her bed, empty. Phone, still on the charger. The flash drives, untouched. I checked the porch, the garage. Gone. Evelyn came an hour later. "She bolted," she said flatly. "If she's trying to bargain with Farrell, we're dead in the water." But I didn't think she ran to protect herself. I found the clue in her trash, a sticky note, torn, one word written on it. Farrell. I thought back to the last time Candace looked behind her, the clinic, where it all started. I drove there fast. The lot was empty, but the lights were on, and the front door was cracked open. The clinic door creaked open. Dust floated in the sterile air, antiseptic and something sour. "Candace?" I called. No answer. Reception was a mess. Drawers yanked, phone off the hook. I moved quietly toward the back. Voices. I stopped outside the supply room. Candace. "And Farrell." "You're not listening," she said. "This ends tonight." "You think a paper trail scares me?" he snapped. Candace shoved a folder into his hands. "You want silence? Sign this. Admit what you did. Resign quietly." He laughed. "Or what?" She pulled out her phone, played a clip, his voice, crisp, recorded. "I told Jim to let it go. We were all under pressure." Silence. Then my voice broke it. "He didn't let it go." They turned. I stepped into the room. Calm. Certain. "The files are in 3 inboxes. The story runs tonight. You should leave." Farrell went pale. He dropped the folder. Ran. Candace stood shaking. "I didn't think you'd come," she whispered. "I had to," I said. We stood there, 2 shadows under fluorescent light. In the cracked mirror by the sink, I saw us both, older, worn, still standing. Later that night, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, Maya's story at the top of the page. Local physicians' files expose widespread medical fraud. One widow speaks out. Jim's voice echoed from the freezer phone. Faint. Some truths survive the silence. I closed my eyes and let go.